Hello and welcome to The Book Was Better, where we're fixing today's movies one book at a time. Well, Halloween is almost upon us, and I wanted to cover at least one monster movie this month, so let's talk about sci-fi monsters. Even in a far-out-there sci-fi setting, there are always going to be rules you have to stick by in order to keep the story enjoyable or to have it make sense. Sure, you can make up plenty of rules, but they have to be made up well and explained properly, especially if you're otherwise setting the story in regular, ordinary, non-altered Earth. Some bullshitting can be allowed, but if you pile it on too much, you start to lose your audience. Jump back to 1995. Two authors, Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, were writing a scientific thriller based on genetics called The Relic. Now, I've seen this compared favorably to Jurassic Park, and yeah, I can see the similarities. Both books have very similar writing styles, starting with tons of scientific info, then leading into a gigantic thrill ride. However, where Jurassic Park has only some crap science, The Relic has a lot. Like plants that have plant, reptile, and human DNA. And apparently, evolution can now happen in a matter of weeks to transform a person into a grotesque monster who... Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The book is pretty good, and if you can ignore the junk science, is a lot of fun. I found it hard to put down once the third act started, and I loved some of the characters, which is why it's such a shame we couldn't see Special Agent Pendergast or Smithback, the journalist, in the movie. But if they have to cut two of my favorite characters from the book, can they at least improve the science in the movie? Let's find out. The first scene shows us a slight change from the book. As the fire on screen tells us who's in the movie, we see an intrepid anthropologist, Whitney, watching a South American tribe in what looks like a ceremonial dance. It's not bad, but I think we could spice it up a little bit. No, we can do better. But the ceremony continues as Whitney is given a drink and we're introduced to our movie's monster. Dude, you suck. We get our first main character on screen with Tom Sizemore playing Lieutenant D'Augusta. Yeah. He explores a ship which was pulled in after floating in Lake Michigan, but has no crew.
It's blood. Lab's checking it for type.
Any bodies?
Nope, not a one.
That sounds like another movie which came out in the same year.
Check the cargo hold! There may be crew down there! Everybody off the boat!
While that's going on, we also get to meet Margot Green, a scientist working in the Chicago History Museum, and her boss, the little fashion designer lady from The Incredibles. They're both a little tied up since they just got a new shipment from Whitney, which arrived before he did.
What was in this other crate?
Except for the packing leaves, it was empty.
Packing leaves? Were peanuts not messy enough? Did you need something that would actually rot on the trip over? It turns out that the crates will provide excellent material for the museum's upcoming event based on superstition. And that has attracted the attention of two kids who decided to skip school and stay at the museum after hours. Weird.
Hey, didn't your parents teach you not to stare?
Didn't yours teach you not to get dressed in the street?
Actually, these kids are brats. And pretty annoying.
Why don't we just start yelling? Someone will show us the way out of here.
They can't find their way out of the museum? It's not that hard! God, I cannot wait to see how much trouble they get in when their parents find out.
Let's get out of here.
Okay, I'm going straight to hell. D'Augusta shows up to the museum, continuing his investigation from the ship, which he's chalking up to an attack by drug dealers.
The question is, what does a museum guard have to do with a drug hit on a South American ship?
I don't know.
Actually, that's a good question. Is he here in relation to the ship deaths? How could he possibly make that connection? Was it because there were crates on board that were headed for the museum? 'Cause judging by the size of that ship, there'd probably be about 1,000 more places to check. Oh, and D'Augusta is very superstitious.
That's terrific.
The movie makes sure to let us know.
No, don't step over it. It's bad luck.
What have you got there?
Good luck, bullet.
Cat! Nearly gave me a heart attack.
Was it a black cat?
This is a change from the book, but to be fair, it doesn't really harm the character much. As the investigation goes on, Margot looks into the plants that Whitney sent to the museum.
Toxin suppressant hormones. This fungus is loaded with hormones. Animal hormones. What kind of fungus is this?
Probably not the kind you should be touching with your bare hands. Expert biologist, my ass. And to give you even more reason to question her intellect, Margot's damsel in distress sense goes off as she explores the new superstition exhibit after hours. But it turns out that exploring overly creepy hallways by herself might be a bad idea, so she goes running when she hears something coming up behind her. No, not the bathroom! That's where the last guy got killed!
Now you...
But as she takes a peek to see the monster, she sees... She was being chased by an aging asthmatic janitor? Wait, she ran that fast and the janitor caught up? Gods, I thought I was out of shape. Also, what's up with that inhaler? The museum's opening gala for the new exhibition is still going on though, so it's up to the cops to search every nook and cranny for the killer.
Jesus. Is that a footprint?
Gotta be over 7 feet tall.
Quick! Put out a search for half the NBA! But of course, we have another black guy, obviously about to get jumped, so he never sees the attack coming. Whoa. This might be a first in movie history. The black guy survived an ambush in a monster movie! I'm not dying in this movie! The museum staff believes that the killer is now dead, despite DaGusta's warning to be careful. Margot goes back to her office, but something seems a little off about her plant sample. Hey, stop jumping around! Let's go back a little bit so we can actually see the monster. That thing looks like a baked potato! No wonder they try to hide it with the editing. But as the gala begins, Margot and Dr. Frock stay behind in their labs to examine the baked potato that Margot smashed.
Remember the leaves from Whitney's crate?
Yeah.
That beetle ate part of one. I ran some cells through the interpolator, searching for a match.
Must be something in the leaf.
Take a look at that printout. Hormones, lots of them.
Plant is heavily infected with a virus.
So it's taken over some of the plant cells and inserted its own genetic material into the plant's genes. But why would a virus code for animal proteins?
Charles Darwin is spinning in his grave so fast it looks like he's breakdancing. The gala is off to a good start, complete with fancy buffet and nice music. But as the mayor leads the way into the new exhibit, the Cathoga decides to try out his own buffet.
We got a very dangerous situation, Your Honor.
Jesus, this diorama wall, can't we override manually?
Not in code status, I can't. We're gonna have to reset the whole system.
It's impossible. Somebody's fucking with us.
Yeah, the screenwriters. Seriously though, what knocked out the power? People scream and trample each other as they try to get out, racing the clock before the security doors lock them inside. That's not how a revolving door works, people. That's not... Screw it. How was your experience today? Would you recommend the tour? Now we're getting to the point where I really had a problem with the movie. You see, no one knew what they were doing with the monster.
Control, this is Parkinson. What the hell is going on down there? Would you answer me for Christ's sake?
Someone fucking trashed the backup system.
Johnson, it's Parkinson. Where the hell are you?
Hey, asshole. Aren't you gonna answer the man?
That room is basically a large broom closet. How did the monster sneak in there? How does it fit? How did the guy not feel it breathing on the back of his neck? And I know the Cathoga is intelligent, but exactly how did it manage to take out the power? These questions, and more, will be promptly ignored. So while the police try to lead the people trapped inside the museum out through the sewers, a few are reluctant to leave. So, of course, they're dead. And this is where we see the monster for the first time. Is that? Through what little you can see, this monster looks ridiculous. It's like if Predator had sex with an 800-pound dog. This thing looks like it's part bull, part shark, and part lion.
It is half man, half bear, and half pig.
And this is where I have to really question both the movie and the book. This is the human hypothalamus, which the monster eats. This is the Cathoga. How does it manage to extract chunks of brains? And apparently cleanly. Here's an earlier scene.
Hey, wait a minute. This brain's light, even for a man. Something's missing, Lieutenant. Where's the rest of it?
You got everything we found.
There is no thalamic region. There is no pituitary gland.
What are you talking about?
The thalamus and hypothalamus regulate body temperature, blood pressure, heartbeat. It regulates hundreds of hormones into the bloodstream.
So does this mean that D'Augusta, a trained police officer with years of experience, can't tell when a brain is missing a big chunk? Or can the Cathoga rip it out so cleanly that you just can't tell? Eating hypothalamuses is weird enough, but I don't think that thing has opposable thumbs. How does it grip a scalpel? While the Cathoga is eating, we finally get to understand a little more about what it is. Margot analyzes its spit, and we see a complete DNA readout of the creature.
Well, whatever this thing was, it ate those leaves and is rapidly evolving into something reptilian.
You mean it's still changing?
It's quite possible. It can't be.
What? What is it?
33% Homo sapien.
Are you telling me that thing's part human?
No, I'm saying more than that. According to this data, that thing started out as a human.
Oh, great, you made him cry! So the police finally send a SWAT team to take care of the monster and pull out the survivors. Enter the worst tack insertion team you'll ever see. Oh, and it gets worse. While the Cathoga is trying to fatigue the SWAT guy's head off, his buddy comes in about half a minute later. And then he gets killed! Maybe if they, I don't know, send more than one guy at a time, they could do something! Instead, the third SWAT guy decides that he isn't paid enough for this crap and tries to get out.
Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does.
So the survivors are still on their way out of the sewers, unaware that the Cathoga is tracking them.
Bailey?
Yeah!
You hear something?
No!
Alright, that thing can't weigh less than a ton. How the hell can he sneak up on people in chest-high water? I'm convinced. They're fighting Dr. McNinja. Also, he eats brains, so he's a zombie. Margot and D'Augusta come up with a plan to stop the Cathoga based on its reptilian DNA.
Okay, we know this thing is part reptilian, probably ectothermic, so it can't handle extremes of hot and cold. Maybe if we can change its temperature by 30 to 40 degrees, we can freeze the son of a bitch.
Once the liquid nitrogen fails, D'Augusta decides to stay behind to face the monster to buy Margot more time.
Get inside the lab and lock the door.
What about you?
Just get inside. I'll hold it off.
Hold it off! You've seen that thing!
Yeah, I've seen it.
Look, I know if we keep going, we can find a way out.
I don't want a way out. We've got to stop it.
I'll stay with you!
Get inside.
This is crazy!
Get inside! Now!
You know, Tom Sizemore is this close to overacting, but he just does it right, and he's so much fun to watch.
Lock the goddamn door!
But Margot makes one more discovery as her computer reveals who the Cathoga really is.
John Whitney. Oh my God.
Alright, This thing can teleport. Nothing else makes sense. Yeah, playing the hero isn't working out for you now, is it? Margot runs away from the monster as quickly as she can, running into every jar the museum owns. Actually, this is part of her plan to kill the monster. You see, since extreme temperatures are dangerous, why not set the room on fire? With science!
Just keep coming. A little more.
Dr. Green, you could give that thing dental advice. I'm pretty sure it's close enough.
I know who you are.
And now the mythical hell beast is on fire! Margot hides in an aquarium as the world's slowest explosion comes to save her. Come on, I can jog faster than that, and I'm out of shape, remember? The explosion finally catches up, blowing the Cathoga up as chunks of bone go flying at the screen. So Margot and DaGosta make it out, as do the survivors from the sewer. DaGosta abandons his lucky bullet, and the movie ends with almost no resolution while the labs still burn. So, is this movie a good adaptation? Well, I'm honestly a little torn on this one. On one hand, the flaws from the book come out with all the intensity of a blazing phoenix. On the other, it manages to fix a few problems I felt the book had. For example, the anthropologist goes through the rapid evolution, or Callisto effect as the story calls it, but while the movie has the monster run from the shipyard to the museum through the sewers, the book has him run cross-country from New Orleans to New York. Ninja Monster or not, did no one really see this thing? Really? The only person to take note was a Cajun FBI agent? And speaking of Pendergast, I did miss him in the movie, but I can understand not using him in order to save on time and character development. DaGosta was rewritten to account for several of Pendergast's scenes, which likely explains the change in character. Also missing was Smithback, who played a journalist with a penchant for survival, as well as writing a great book and becoming insanely rich from it. The music is okay, fitting with the scenes well enough, but it's nothing to write home about. The setting is anywhere between not bad and entirely artificial, but I feel that comes naturally to museums, so in some places I guess that works in the movie's favor. The characters are the biggest driving point for the movie. Margot and DaGosta are the biggest characters left over from the transition, while everyone else makes very little impact. While they're not bad, I found Margot a bit more withdrawn from the book, still contributing, but making her biggest moments only when she's screaming. DaGosta is on the other extreme. He plays the tired cop well, dealing with everything calmly, but still erupting when he has to.
Do you remember?
I want you to consider very carefully.
With all due respect, sir, you can fire me on Monday, but right now I want you to shut your fucking mouth and listen.
He comes so close to overacting so many times that it's almost funny, but Tom Sizemore is able to hold it back enough that it's still fun to watch.
Let me ask you something. How the fuck does somebody get custody of a dog?
Now, of course, this being a monster movie, there was a lot of rushed editing. Several cuts forced us between an intense chase and a relaxed scene like in the gala, which does shake things up and makes the audience feel a bit uneasy, which is exactly what the movie was going for.
This coffee's terrible. It's bitter. Very bitter.
What do you think, darling?
Telling moment.
Not for me. Not today.
Decent casting and smart editing were what really made this movie, as well as making a few necessary changes from the book. And of course, I have to talk about the monster. Now, if I saw this thing running at me, I'd shoot myself in the head just to get my inevitable death over with. But for a movie, it never really draws you in. Perhaps it's the bullshit science involved, or because we almost never get to see the monster in any decent lighting, but the Cathoga doesn't have the horrifying impact that it really should. Bad lighting is a cornerstone of suspense in horror movies, But if we can't see the monster in a monster movie, it throws the viewer off. It's not the haunting, where the horror comes from what we don't understand. We know what we're supposed to be afraid of. Just let us see the monster so we can be properly freaked out by it. The biggest problem I had, though, was with the bullshit science. To be fair, it's also a problem in the book, but the book unravels everything slower so you're not hit with this nonsense all at once. I'm sure the writers of both stories wanted to have a smart, edgy thriller, but when you talk about having a plant that also contains reptile and human hormones and can evolve whatever eats it practically overnight, then it just takes me out of the moment and just pisses me off. In the end, the book is able to expand more on these characters as well as the science behind it all and leads to a greater thrill ride between multiple scenes. The movie actually doesn't do too bad a job at this. It's not as thrilling as the book, but all in all I'd say it was a good job at a movie adaptation. Not as good as, I don't know, Jurassic Park, but still a worthy attempt nonetheless. I'd say check it out, but make sure you read the book as well. I'm Crimson Rogue, and if you'll excuse me, I'm going to find a way to genetically combine this onion with this cat. Isn't she cute?